Good evening and welcome to the Monday, October 10th, 2022 Maplewood City Council meeting. I wanted to start off tonight by complimenting our fire department for the amazing open house that we had on Saturday. I brought a little toy that was one of the kid things that was passed out at the fire station open house. It was a great time. There were a lot of people that turned out. Kids were having fun. It was a beautiful day. Hot dogs, cookies, chips. It was a wonderful event, and our fire staff and our police department did a great job on one of these great community events. There was a really interesting demonstration, and for anyone who was there to see it, it was put on by the National Fire Sprinkler System Association. They had a trailer, and it was a mock-up of two family rooms. One of them had a sprinkler system, one of them did not. And they had open sides so that we could see what happens to a home if you don't have a sprinkler system. And the house that had the sprinkler system, as soon as the fire started, it was really very, very soon, the sprinkler system went on, the water came on, and the fire was put out. The other side of the trailer, where there was no sprinkler system, there was a flash point where all of a sudden the whole room was just consumed, and it was like a movie where the fire just roiled in, and it was, we were all outside watching it, and it was quite impressive. So thank you to the fire department for all your wonderful service to our community, and thank you for bringing that demonstration. It was very impactful. Let's see, I want to make sure I thank everybody. Council members, I know some of you were there as well. I know that some of our fire staff had their families there. It was a wonderful opportunity, so thank you. Those community engagement events are really important for our city. So, folks, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you stand, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk Sint, would you do the roll call for us, please?
Councilmember Juniman? Here. Councilmember Villavicencio?
Here.
Councilmember Cave?
Here.
Mayor Abrams?
I'm here.
And Councilmember Knudsen is not joining us tonight.
Council members, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move approval.
Second.
Moved by Cave, seconded by Juniman. The motion to approve the agenda. Is there any further discussion? Council member Juniman.
Under council presentations, yard tasks.
I'm sorry, what?
Yard tasks.
Okay, yard tasks. You mean fall cleanup?
I do.
Okay. Leaves and all of that fun stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, anyone else have anything to add? Okay, then council members, we've had a motion and a second. All those in favor of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda passes. Moving on to the approval of the minutes for the September 26, 2022 City Council meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Villavicencio, the motion to approve the September 26, 2022 City Council meeting minutes. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The meeting minutes pass. Moving on our agenda to administrative presentations, we have our council calendar update with City Manager Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor Abrams, members of the City Council. The council calendar is meant to just give you a preview of what's coming up at our next City Council meetings and workshops. On October 24th, we will have the compensation study presentation with Baker Tilly. That will be at our council meeting. On November 14th, we'll have an EDA meeting to talk about the TIF term sheet for the Reuter-Walton project. And at 7 o'clock at the City Council meeting, the Reuter-Walton project approvals will be considered at that meeting. November 24th, we'll have a workshop, and you will have the rental housing program annual report at that time. I know that that's something that's of interest to all of you to see how that program is working. On the upcoming community events, we have a really fun one planned for October 29th. It's our Trunk or Treat event here at the City Hall parking lot from 1 to 4 p.m. on the 29th. And with that, council members, that's my report. I'm happy to hear any topics of concern or interest that you'd like me to look into on your behalf.
Thank you, City Manager Coleman. There are 2 points that I want to make and talk to the council about now that we're all up here. You know, we have discussed catalytic converters a number of times. We've had Chief Beardeman talk about some of the efforts that we're taking in terms of the catalytic converter thefts that we're experiencing. I have spoken with Chief Beardeman. He has talked with our department, and today he sent me a fact sheet about catalytic converters and the problem that we're having. Since January, council members, we have had 339 stolen catalytic converters in our city. And unfortunately, we have the dubious distinction of being number 1 in the suburbs for catalytic converters. And I've talked to our state legislators about this problem and what we can do. In my mind, it seems like this is a bipartisan issue, that, you know, anyone who has their catalytic converter stolen winds up having to have the inconvenience of having it replaced, they have to pay the deductible on their insurance, and it really is just a headache. And so our state legislators have told me that they are not optimistic that our legislature will get something done on this catalytic converter issue. Now, for those of you that have served with me on the council, you know that I am not inclined to overstep, and you know, I like to stay in our city lane. I think that our legislature, and if any ever hear this, I would certainly encourage them. This is a bipartisan issue. Get it done. Make it a crime for anyone to be in possession of a catalytic converter who does not have proof of ownership. And so I've been talking with the police department and asked whether or not this is something that we could do as a city ordinance. And in my communication with the chief, we know that there are several cities that have done this already. We know Minneapolis, St. Paul, Bloomington, I believe Shakopee, Savage, and maybe Scott County have already taken the step of creating their own ordinance. And so, Chief, I'm going to defer to you, and I'm going to ask you 2 questions. The first one is, can you just remind everybody, what have we already tried to do to stem this tide of catalytic converter thefts?
Madam Mayor, Council, thank you. Just to recap, from 2019 to 2021, we were ranked number 1. It's not a distinction we like to have. We had 422 in that 2-year period. The next closest city was Eagan with 280. And if you look at per capita, St. Paul had 1877, Minneapolis had 1560. So we're still number 1 per capita when you look at that. In 2022, we made a specific category so we could track it easier. In the past, it would just be listed as auto theft, so it was much tougher to categorize it. Now we can categorize and track it much easier. As you spoke, Mayor, we have 339 year-to-date, and the year is not complete. Back in March, we reached our highest level. We had 62 in the month of March. So beginning of early April, we created a detail. Even being short-staffed, down 12 officers, we still felt it very important to not just go after Part 1 crimes, but to really address this issue. So we dedicated 250 hours of overtime, as well as a social media campaign. We had our auto theft detective provide the officers with focused details of hotspots to include times and locations of when these are likely to happen. And instead of trying to, you know, it's very tough to catch people stealing catalytic converters. You're looking at 15 to 30 seconds and they're gone. They typically block it with another car. They crawl underneath. And so we really wanted to be more proactive and just get them to at least leave the city or go somewhere else. Because catching them is so difficult. So really it was a social media campaign and then a very high visibility presence in the lots. And since then, we went from 62 in March, and then you look at June, we were down to 21, and it's sustained between the 20s and mid-20s up until now. This month isn't complete. We have 7 this month, but through September, August, we were at 25 and 24. So I'm not saying that our efforts in that overtime effort necessarily brought it down, but it definitely correlated with when we did that. But again, as you spoke, Mayor, if the legislation isn't going to do something and it's really tough to catch them doing it, the next step is to catch them transporting. And so if they're transporting and there's a car full of catalytic converters, right now we pull them over unless we can prove that they're stolen, then you'd have theft of property, and it's very difficult to prove it's stolen. So the next thing would be to create an ordinance in which it's illegal to possess without a receipt or proof of ownership.
So the chief basically has indicated to me that this would be of benefit. It would be another tool that our officers could use to try to stop this. So this is the place to bring these kinds of things up. So council members, what I would like to propose is that we ask staff, obviously our city attorney, to review the other ordinances that are out there. I know the police department has already looked at those. I've looked at them too. And then come back to the council with a proposal that will help our community stop this insanity of all these catalytic converter thefts. So council members, do you want to weigh in on that, please? Councilmember Cave.
Sure, I think that's a great idea, to have staff do that, and Chief Beardeman, that's thinking out of the box with our situation that we have without help, in different ways, we're getting help internally, so thank you for doing that, yeah.
Thanks. Councilmember Juniman, your
Yes,
thoughts?
once again, the city of Maplewood will do the legislature's job. Yes.
Councilmember Villavicencio, your thoughts?
Yes, definitely. Obviously, this is a big problem.
Okay, so staff, you've heard from council that this would be an initiative that we would like to get done sooner rather than later. And I think starting with the other, I think it's 6 communities that have similarly adopted an ordinance, if we can start there, and then come up with something that will work for our police department, and it will be something that then you can bring forward to us as soon as possible so that we can stop this. Okay? I think it'd be a great tool for our public safety officers. And the other topic that I wanted to bring up here at the table is to talk about the Purple Line. Council members, you may recall back to June 27 when we had a Purple Line update from the Met Council staff. At that time, there were a lot of questions, and we were told that the Purple Line needed to be rerouted due to White Bear Lake withdrawing their support from the project. I recall asking about a post-pandemic ridership study, and I also raised safety concerns about the Purple Line out at our Maplewood Transit Center. Councilmember Knutson inquired about the efficacy of the project, and each one of you, as I recall, asked questions on your own about the Purple Line of the Met Council staff. At that time, on June 27th, we were told that there would be public engagement opportunities in Maplewood to discuss new routing and stations being proposed. Those engagement opportunities were to have occurred in August and September. It is already October, and there have been no community engagement meetings in Maplewood. I'm aware that there have been community meetings at Century College, that was posted on the Met Council website, and also at the proposed Arcade Street Station in St. Paul, but none have been held in Maplewood. On September 29th, in a casual conversation, I was asked if I was aware of the new proposed Purple Line route through Maplewood. The information shared with me was very concerning, and I reached out to the Purple Line project manager. I spoke with him on September 30th, and I learned the following about the proposed new routing of the Purple Line. The Purple Line needed to be rerouted as it currently does not qualify as a federally viable project. Met Council their staff had meetings throughout the summer about rerouting the Purple Line, and they conducted pedestrian surveys on the St. John's campus. A co-shared new parking ramp is being proposed to be built with St. John's Hospital and the Purple Line to run the route through St. John's Boulevard. The Met Council would need to acquire the right-of-way for St. John's Boulevard, as it is a private road owned by the hospital. The road would have to be upgraded to meet city road requirements, and either one or possibly 2 pedestrian skyways would have to be built over the roadway to safely move pedestrians from the parking lot over St. John's Boulevard to the hospital and the clinic. The route would travel through what is today Birch Run Station Shopping Mall. Met Council would utilize their condemnation authority to acquire the right-of-way and to buy out the leases and pay for relocation costs for businesses operating at Birch Run. This would amount to a public taking of private property by the Met Council in the city of Maplewood. The route would then travel to our Maplewood Transit Station, which would need to be torn down and rebuilt on a smaller scale. The current facility is too large for what is needed. Additionally, I learned the following on that same phone conversation, that the proposed Purple Line buses would be reduced from 60 feet to 40 feet electric buses. 2 station stops that have been planned in St. Paul are being dropped from the plan. The post-pandemic ridership study that we asked about in June has still not been completed. The new proposed routing through Maplewood is scheduled to be presented at the Corridor Management meeting on November 10th, and only after November 10th would the proposed new plan be made public. A final decision on the new Purple Line route would be made by the end of January 2023. To say I was shocked about the new proposed route for the Purple Line would be a serious understatement. Here in Maplewood, we are very familiar with public engagement. We've successfully conducted public engagement on our North End study, the Rice-Larpenter area, and on the ponds. The information shared with me by Met Council staff is not what I consider to be public engagement. It seems to me that the new proposed routing and the significant and profound impact of this new route is something the Met Council is doing to us here in Maplewood, and they're not doing it with us. So, council members, with that new information, I am asking the City Council to support me in bringing the Purple Line up as a formal agenda item at our next council meeting on October 24th, where I intend on bringing a motion to withdraw Maplewood support for the Purple Line. I want to make it absolutely clear that I support transportation for the East Metro. We are operating at a transit deficit when we compare ourselves to our western and southern neighbors in the metro area. I'm going to say it again so that everyone understands I support transportation in the East Metro area. What we don't need is a large, expensive public infrastructure project that doesn't work for our community. We need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what that might look like. I knew that Councilmember Knudsen would not be attending tonight's meeting. I discussed what I learned with him, and he is in complete support. He provided something for me to read into the record. This is from Councilmember Knudsen. I've been giving much thought to the impact of the pandemic and the major shifts in work-related travel. I think a reset and a reevaluation of the Purple Line routes, ridership numbers, and the overall feasibility is warranted. The East Metro wants more transportation that meets the needs of residents, businesses, housing, higher education, and our senior population. Considering the magnitude of the public investment in the Purple Line, we want transportation that meets our needs. We want an open process to reset the future routing and methods of Purple Line whereby everyone is included in the revisioning. We expect the Met Council to develop a task force, including the 5 members that were already selected to represent Maplewood citizenry, to also include businesses, elected officials along the proposed routes. An important component should be the preservation and protection of the Bruce Vento Trail. I firmly support expanded public transportation, but based on changes in work-life patterns, we need to step back and reevaluate this important investment. So, council members, a lot of new information there. And I certainly want to hear your thoughts on this as well. I didn't see whose light went on first.
Kathy.
Councilmember Juniman?
Thank you, Mayor. To say that I'm disappointed is an understatement, because I too believe we really need some kind of mass transit in the East Metro. We've heard from our large businesses in particular that they need a way to move their people here, come here to work or live and work downtown St. Paul, I get it. But when they were in front of us in June, there was no indication that they would leap into something like this without even saying anything to us. So if they're trying to build a system on trust, they just goofed big time. And that doesn't help any when you're trying to figure out how this could work for everybody, because you have to trust people first. So I'm with you and Mr. Knudsen. We need to say, well, not only are you going back to the drawing board, but either do your engagement or take a hike. I don't understand how this, I don't know. It seems like a knee-jerk reaction to the fact that they lost their federal funding, and when White Bear threw them the loop, they didn't even know what to do with themselves. And that's disappointing when they're supposed to be the agency that is undertaking a very significant transportation project. And so I'm with you. I don't want to abandon the idea at all of mass transit. We need it. But I don't know how you go about, other than what you just said, trying to make it clear to them that you forgot about 8 steps. And they did. They stood here and promised us there would be community engagement and not a new plan for us to go up or down, but engagement meaning how to plan. So I'm with you.
Thank
And
you.
I'm with Councilmember Knudsen. It needs more thought for
Councilmember
sure.
Cave.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the right type of transportation would be something feasible. I didn't think the Purple Line was something feasible. And when they came in June, I also am very upset that all the questions that we had asked them and all the studies that we had presented and asked them to do, because we didn't feel like the Purple Line was going the right way, and to abandon all of that and try to tell us that you're going to take property and turn it into a transit station. I can go on and on, but I'm in support and definitely in support of putting an end to this.
Councilmember Villavicencio, your thoughts?
Yes, thank you. As someone who is a public transit user on a regular basis, obviously this issue is super important to me. And I have been extremely disappointed in the process. As you know, I was appointed to the Purple Line Committee as well. And there really wasn't a lot of engagement even on our level as far as how we as a community individually should and would want it to look like. And obviously, I think public engagement is essential. So I think if the Met Council is not going to have a process that it has a fully transparent public engagement, then I think we need to look at that, obviously. Thank you.
I think they just shot themselves in both feet.
So, council members, what I'm asking is that this will come back to us on October 24th as a formal agenda item so that we can discuss this. And I intend to make the motion to withdraw our support for the Purple Line. Also at that meeting, because really, I think what I hear from the council is that we need transportation on the East Metro. We do. What does that look like? I think we all have to get involved to figure out what that's going to be. And what I would ask at that October 24th meeting is for residents who would like to share their constructive thoughts on Maplewood's future transportation needs, that you come, because certainly you can weigh in with the council on October 24th. What I'm going to be looking for is ideas. I know as I've been out there in our community, I've heard everything from something like the no driver car that White Bear has, to vouchers, to all sorts of different kinds of ideas. We need to figure out transportation. With gas prices, with trying to cut gas emissions, we really need to come up with a creative idea. And at this point in time, this really should be driven by our community, not by the Met Council. So, Councilmember Juniman, you have a...
I have a question for you, Mayor. Have we heard anything, or have we communicated with our representative, Sue Vento, over this?
I have spoken with as many people as I possibly can to try to confirm the information, and I was able to confirm everything that I outlined tonight.
Okay.
I think that from my perspective, this is something that has to be decided by this council. And
Just wondered if
Oh.
she had communicated with us or you with
I
her.
have spoken with many representatives since I learned this on September 30th.
Thank you.
Trying to collect information and try to confirm just exactly what is being proposed out there. Because I have to say, I was completely shocked that none of this was shared with anybody. And certainly the public engagement that we were promised that was going to happen in August and September didn't happen. So there we go. So anything else on the purple line from the council? Okay, thank you, council members. Then moving on, we have the resolution for our commissioner appointments.
We
and
have
that
one
is going to
council
be-
presentation, sorry.
I'm sorry, what?
One council presentation?
Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped right ahead over that.
That's quite
I'm
all right.
sorry.
We-
You know,
it's
I'm
on-
not thinking about leaves right now.
I know you're
Okay,
not.
so,
But in
yes,
another
let me
couple
go
da-
back to that.
In another
Councilmember-
couple days, you will be.
Oh, I think so.
Yes.
It sure is pretty out there now, though.
Yes, it is. Two things. This has been on the news lately, and then I spoke to someone who had a concern about trees. It started out as an emerald ash board conversation and ended up as how to take care of your trees conversation. And so I'm encouraging people to water your trees in your yard, and you don't just do the ones that are the size of your index finger. Even older trees need water at this time of year, and we are going into the colder season, possibly winter on some version, with a great deficit, and they are predicting that we are going to lose a lot of trees in the metro area over the winter, and a lot of it has to do to drought. So if you have significant trees of any kind in your yard, I'm begging you, water them slowly. You put the hose on a trickle, and believe it or not, you can do it for up to 8 hours at a time, so that it doesn't all run down the sewer. But if it's at a trickle and you move it a few times, trees are suffering, and we're losing enough to emerald ash borer. I don't think we want to lose any of our other significant trees. So I'm just asking you to maybe do yourselves and the city a service by doing that. And secondly, it is leaf time, so please try and gather your leaves and compost them in your yard or take them to a compost site. Please do not blow them into the gutter, because then they go down our storm sewers and into the water. Not a good thing. So I'm just asking you to try and gather things together. And I even know neighborhoods where neighbors take turns during leaf season and take each other's leaves to compost site or whatever. But I'm just asking you to minimize what goes into the watershed. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we can move on to the resolution for commissioner appointments. We had 2 individuals who interviewed during our workshop to serve on our Parks and Rec Commission. City Manager Coleman has tallied the votes. Do you want to announce that, please?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. After interviewing 2 commission candidates, the council voted 3-1 to appoint Jason DeMoe.
Congratulations, Jason, and I'm sure city staff will be in communication with you about attending your first Parks and Rec Commission.
Mayor?
City Manager Coleman.
I would just add that we have several openings on our other commissions right now, so if you have any other interest areas, we would encourage you to apply for one of those.
Mayor? We actually
City
have, I believe, still have an opening on the Environmental Natural Resources Commission. And with you're interested in trees and all that type of thing,
Might be a good.
please.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Moved by Cave, the motion to approve the attached resolution to appoint Jason DeMoe to the Parks and Rec Commission. Is there a second? Second. Moved by Cave, seconded by Villavicencio, the motion to approve Jason DeMoe on a resolution to appoint him to the Parks and Rec Commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. And now we have a presentation by Assistant City Manager Darrow and our Communications Manager Joe Sharon concerning our More Team update on DEI efforts.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor and members of council. You're going to, so we did this in coordination with one another. As you may or may not know, we have a lot of great opportunities here in this city to sort of not volunteer, but flex our time to do other roles. One of the roles I've taken on is to help lead our MORE team, and if you're not familiar with it, it's the Maplewood Organization for Racial Equity. It was started back in about 2017. It was around the time where we noticed our community was really starting to diversify. There were a lot of, it was right after the Philando Castillo incident over in our neighboring community. And so we knew we needed to take a really, really hard look at the diversity, not only within our city, but the diversity within our staff. So the MORE team does a number of things. One of the biggest things it does is in your, or in our city strategic plan, the MORE team formulates the goals for how we're going to carry out diversity, equity, and inclusion, which stands for short for DEI, or long for DEI. And over the last 6.5, 7 years, we've done a lot of work. There's still more that the MORE team needs to do, but we've come a long, long way. One of the things we help do is, again, we really evaluate that inclusiveness goal within our city strategic plan and make sure we have tactics and action plans in place to make sure we're delivering on that. We've hosted a diversity job fair. We've also looked at how we provide community outreach. We used to have one department do one event. A week later, a different department would do a very similar event. So how do we sort of synergize police, fire, public works, public safety, so that when we come out as a community, we're coming out with real numbers, real force, and we're making the events as relevant to the community as possible. And again, our former police chief, carried on by our new police chief, Beardeman, have really stepped up, along with Fire Chief Mike Mondor and our Park and Rec, Park and Natural Resources folks now, and Public Works, with, I think you do almost 200 external engagement events where we're in the community. So that's a really, really positive thing. We increased staff participation. Now, public safety mandated it and paid overtime for it because we knew how important, they knew how important it was, and the council knows how important it is, and they've allotted some flex time for regular staff to participate as well. And then, as you know, the mayor has a Faith Spirit Coalition that kind of runs as a supplement. And from out of our original police use of force task force, it's kind of morphed into a couple of things, and now it's the MAC, the Multicultural Advisory Committee, again, which is run out of public safety. So this year, we wanted to take it up to the next step. We hired a consultant, a third-party consultant. It was the first time we actually put real money behind this. Up until that point, it was a lot of staff time, a lot of people who were really dedicated, but now we had brought in common sense solutions. Consultants did sort of a 360, a complete look at what we were doing, how we were doing it, what we could improve on. And from that, one of the things we realized is that when it comes to DEI, we're at different levels. There's some people who are really advanced in it, and there's some people who I want to help but don't know how. So we did an all-staff cultural agility training, which means everyone right now who works for the city of Maplewood has some basic DEI know-how. Not only that, but they know it's a priority for the city. One of the things we see is we talk about these initiatives at council and at a high level, and sometimes it doesn't make it down to staff. And I think in order for something like DEI and the MORE team to have success, frontline staff need to do a lot of the groundwork, and they need to know what we're doing and why we're doing it. And then, again, what we did through this process is we made some revisions to the strategic plan. What are we doing well? What works? What did we accomplish? Can we sunset that and move forward? And one of the things we really realize now is, again, as our community goes from roughly 8-9% Asian to 19% Asian. We have an uptick in both African American population and Hispanic population. We know we need a staff that mirrors our community and understands our community's needs the same way. So again, enhancing community outreach. One of the things that I think is really crucial here is that while we're doing this community outreach, it's great that police and fire and public works are out there, but some of the frontline services like DMV, passports, some of those other things that we provide great service for, instead of waiting for them to come to us, let's look at ways where when we do these events in communities, we can bring some of these services to the folks who need them. How can we partner with people who are already doing the service? Back before the pandemic, a lot of that first round of community outreach, we had Ramsey County Libraries, Metro Transit, Community Health, and all the neighbors, and we're able to see the services that we put. And then also, too, one of the goals we have is that 70% of our people who are in our community see us as a welcoming, inclusive community. So how do you get that, right? So we do the 2-year survey every year, and it gives us a snapshot over 2 years. But how do we make sure our events are actually relevant, welcoming, and those kinds of things? So this year with our Trunk or Treat, we're going to pilot an exit strategy, a little exit survey. When you walk out, you're going to have somebody's going to be standing there with an iPad, and you can give the rating. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What do you want to see more of? That sort of thing. And then find relevant things that are going on already, right? So we partner with the Rice Larpenter Coalition. So instead of us having to invent the program, let's go to programs where people are already there. It's much easier if somebody's already at an event for us to go rather than create an event and bring them in. And here, this video is an example from our neighbors down the street at Unison about an event that recently happened.
Spicy papaya, sausage and pork belly, macaron, Korean Korean food.
I like Asian food, and this just came up in Facebook suggestion.
This is Yan Yan, Thai mixed with, other Asian food. We have about 34 food vendors.
They got donuts here, they got sushi, they got teriyaki.
I ate Thai food, walked over and had an Asian dessert, then I go over and get a Japanese food, so it's all in the same place.
Pretty much anything you can ask for, right? It's pretty great.
I want to bring in as many variety as Asian food and different tastes as we can. Here we are at the Long's Combo, the kind of more like sushi. The point of this event is to bring in the community, especially diversity,
I'm visiting from Washington, D.C., and she told me it was like a great way to learn about all the different cultures here in St. Paul.
I think this is very authentic, like the food they're serving, especially like the utensils they're using and the people that are cooking it. Looks like a homemade Thai, Vietnamese, Laos kind of food, and that's awesome because you don't get that in restaurants.
For me, I love spicy food because I was raised that way. I was born in Thailand, so I went to a lot of night market there. I want to have that feeling in America here.
I think Minnesota is one of the best states when it comes to food scenery in the Midwest, and especially Asian food, because that was a really eye-opener for me.
This is my goal because I used to be a vendor before, so I want to get small business a chance.
I think it's awesome. I think we should have more of these.
There are many different kinds of amazing food, so if you are a foodie person, you're going to love it.
So we show that because, most of the time we're talking about initiatives that the city does. One of the things we want to do in communications is highlight the people in our community and how the community interacts with one another. And so that is it is the most popular video we have. It's at 50,000 hits and counting. So it's a really important thing. It's an opportunity for, again, people to get to know each other within our community, and people who are watching are probably people not necessarily familiar with all the ins and outs that the city does. So again, looking for opportunities where people are already gathered. Can we go to those opportunities? I want to thank Kevin Schmitz for putting that together and braving the rain that happened a couple of minutes before we started shooting and then after. And then, again, we get into that community survey, and we do tend to hit that 70% of people feel we're inclusive, welcoming community. However, if you go in and disaggregate the numbers and you look at individual cultures, the numbers aren't at 70. The numbers are much, much lower. So again, when we do our next community survey, disaggregating the numbers, really digging into how people from different communities see our services and see who we are, and that's going to be really important. And then, again, one of the biggest things is recruitment. Mr. Darrow, since he's taken over as HR director, has done a wonderful job of trying to get creative about looking at the way we put together job applications. Are those job applications turning people off? Are those job applications presenting a barrier? How do we advertise our jobs? Is it just through the traditional sources? How do we get out through our networks, right? So the police, the fire departments already do a great job of getting to events where people are. and they're trying to hire and recruit even if they don't have a job to fill. Unfortunately, police and fire have had lots of jobs to fill, but they're being proactive. They're trying to network with folks. They're trying to, let people know that we are a family-first city. We're a family-first organization. And really, instead of trying to have that person sell themselves to us, we're really doing a proactive job at selling who we are as a city. To prospective people. One of the other things we look at is, we in cities sometime and in government we get focused on this is the job, this is the description, this is this. Let's focus on strengths, right? We're a strengths-based organization. So what are your strengths? What are your skill sets? What do you like to do? Okay, well these are 3 positions where you might really plug in well. Give us your information. When we have one of those positions come up, we're going to invite you to sign up and apply for one of the jobs. And then, again, using your networks, and trying to widen out your networks as much as possible. In the year ahead, in sort of our next iteration of DEI, a couple of things we want to work at are language options. You come into our lobby here, almost every language in the world is heard in that lobby. And so are we using relevant language resources? Are there language barriers? Are there things that we could use like Language Line to really cut down those barriers? And then the other thing is a service audit. One of our council members here has, uses a chair to get around, and I see you all the time on White Bear Avenue, and it's not just you, it's a lot of different people traversing White Bear Avenue. So are we creating infrastructure and auditing our infrastructure? Is our infrastructure not only meeting the basic ADA needs, but are we, again, making people feel welcomed instead of, oh, we're checking off a box? So it's a big undertaking. I'm not saying we're going to hit everything next year, but we're really starting to dive into these things. And I want, as coordinator for the Moore team, I want to thank council and I want to thank the city, because this last year and this year going forward, we actually put some financial resources behind some of what we're. And I want to, and on behalf of the Moore team, which is made up of part of public safety, almost every department in the city has a representative on the Moore team. I want to thank them for their time, for their talent. They've given us a lot of great suggestions to move this forward. And with that,
I just wanted to say thank you to Joe for his time. And one of the things that I also want to congratulate the council is that, these are things that are in the strategic plan. And so the strategic plan that was developed and approved by the council provides the North Star. And what I appreciate about Joe and Brian and Mike and Melinda and others is, you hit it. There's 200 events, and the DEI, which can be a slogan to some, it is action-based here in Maplewood. And the work that the Moore team and Joe, the police department, the fire department, parks, the work that they've done just in this last year to meet people, to go out and be proactive in the community in times where people are looking for the reaction. That's where we build community. And to be able to be a part of an organization that's committed to that. I'm excited about the work that's been done in this past year, and I think that if we've had a great year this year, it's going to be even better next year based on the work that you're doing, Joe, and the Moore team and others.
Thank you for that presentation. It certainly, do you want to stay up there for a second? I don't know if there's questions, but it certainly is very important. I think the last census indicated that our community is now, it's over 40% diverse, is that correct?
Yes.
Is it 44%? I don't remember the exact
It depends on the numbers you look, but we're below 60%. For a long time, using the 2010 census numbers, Maplewood is roughly 68% white alone. Now we're down, I think, depending, if you look at the ACS data versus the census quick facts data, we're below 60% white alone.
It's important.
And the biggest jump is in the Asian Pacific Islander. Again, I want to be careful because there are these big chunks of Asian Pacific Islanders, a lot of different countries, a lot of different cultures, a lot of different backgrounds. But as we know, if you come to any one of these events, you look around and, again, faces all over the world in our community.
Thank you. Council members, any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I had a quick comment and
Councilmember
question.
Villavicencio.
First, thanks for showing that video. I obviously saw it when you put it out. I thought it was great. I love the attention to the detail that you have on the the different aspects of DEI, because I think that it's something that a lot of times is hit more isolated in one section versus all, and I think you hit all of them pretty well. One question I had is, you said that all the frontline workers are getting training as well, or all the workers, maybe, you said? And what I was wondering is who was doing that training?
Thanks, Councilmember Villavicencio. Yes, all city workers, so everyone who is a full-time benefits earning employee was sort of mandated to have this training, and there were multiple sessions for them to attend the training. And this training was done by our partners at Common Sense Solutions, so the consultants, the independent consultants that we had hired. So they had done the training, and the training really was cultural. It was a wide perspective. It wasn't about African American or Asian or people with a disability. It was you as a person from majority culture even has unique cultural diversity too. So it's I think we come in and we introduce ourselves, name, rank, serial number, Joe Sheeran, Communications, Maplewood. And instead it was, no, tell me who you are, where you're from, your background. So it's Joe Sheeran, firstborn of my family. I grew up in the East Coast. I'm an Eagles fan. Go Birds. So there's that kind, and we learned a lot about each other.
Thank you.
I think Joe has a disability. He speaks way too fast.
Okay, moving on, there's no action taken that we need to take. So let's move on, council members, to our consent agenda. We have items G 1 through 8. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
I move consent agenda items G 1 through 8.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave, the motion to approve our consent agenda items G 1 through 8. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Moving on, we go to new business. We have a presentation concerning the applications for 2023 charitable gambling funds. City Manager Coleman, this is yours. Do you want to give us a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Abrams, members of the City Council. Every year, the City of Maplewood solicits requests for charitable gambling funds, and every year, those requests far exceed the amount of available funds we have. And this is the case this year as well. The council will be reviewing 13 applications with $71,900 in requests for projects this year. And our priority is youth programs and community engagement and events. We did have a surprise in that we had $50,000 we had in revenue this year, which I think we've been doing this for 20 years, and I don't know that we've ever gotten very far over 30,000. So I don't know what's happening, but we will be gladly accepting that.
Do you want to explain maybe for people who don't know, where does the money come from?
Well, the money comes from pull tabs that people use when they might be in a fundraiser or a bar or a like the Legion Hall or some other place where people gather. They sell these and people pull the tabs, and sometimes they win money and sometimes they don't. But all of the proceeds from those, some portion of that is allotted to us from what they make on those. So that's really good. What we have for you this evening is the applications, I think, are in here.
Yes,
they are.
They are.
And it says which of the organizations they are and how much they're requesting. And what we have done in the past, Mayor, is we let you take these home with you and study them, and then you report back to us on how you would like to see those allocated. And I believe Lois has prepared a sheet for you to fill out.
Yes.
Okay.
Looks like that.
Yep. So you're all set on that. I think what we would like to do is have those back by October. Let me just get the date here. October 18th.
That's a Tuesday?
That's a Tuesday. Yeah, a week from tomorrow, so that we can get them in the packet for the 24th and make those awards. Also, Mayor, I don't know if there are people in the audience who are here to make a pitch. I think in the past, the mayor has allowed people who are applicants to, if they want to have a 2-minute summary of what they are asking the funds, how they're going to be using those funds. The mayor can allow that to happen. Otherwise, you have your homework assignment, and we'll put this
I know
back
that
on the
there
agenda.
there's at least one person. I don't recognize if there's anyone else here. 2 people.
3?
We have, let's see, would you, TJ, would you want to come up to the front, please? I recognize you from the farm. And the great Sunday farmer's market at great fun at the farm this summer.
Thank you.
So,
It was
do
a
you
great
wanna-
summer, yes.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm TJ Mulaski. I'm the Executive Director of the Maplewood Area Historical Society at the Brew and Troop Heritage Farm. So some of you I know, some of you I don't. It's good to see you all. Mayor Abrams, City Council members, Ms. Coleman, City of Maplewood staff. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the partnership between the City of Maplewood and the Maplewood Area Historical Society. When Maplewood citizens in the city investigated the formation of a local historical society in 1997, I doubt any of those individuals involved could have fathomed how far our local historical society would come in a quarter of a century. Over the last 20 years, with generous support from the City of Maplewood, the Maplewood Area Historical Society board and volunteers have worked tirelessly to lay the foundation for a regional museum right here in Maplewood. One of our proudest achievements is welcoming over 12,000 visitors to the Brew and Troop Heritage Farm and other local events annually. Of these visitors who gain a stronger appreciation for the history and cultures of Maplewood have been thousands of local children. One of the cornerstones of the Maplewood Area Historical Society is our dedication to youth education, particularly through our day camp programs aimed at elementary and middle school aged youth, such as our Farm to Table Camp, Arts on the Farm Camp, Hmong Language and Culture Camp, Culinary Heritage Camp, Theater on the Farm Camp, Architecture Farm Camp, and History Detectives Camp. We project reaching nearly 400 local youth through these camps alone in 2023. The Maplewood Area Historical Society is asking for an appropriations of $8,400 from the City of Maplewood's charitable gambling tax funds to support these camps by allowing free and reduced lunch-eligible students scholarships to attend camp, providing lunch options for these same students, and offsetting supplies and material costs to provide our local youth with the opportunity to attend an unforgettable and impactful camp experience right here in the heart of Maplewood. More information may be found in our grants application, and I look forward to answering any questions or taking comments as allowed at this time. Thank you.
Council members, any questions, any comments? Thank you for
Great.
your presentation.
Is there ever a time when there isn't a camp?
Pardon me?
Is there ever a time when there isn't a camp?
Right now, so I'm taking a breath right now.
This is it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Here, so, okay.
Thank you.
all.
Anyone else would like to present concerning, do you want to come up to the microphone, please? Concerning the charitable gambling funds. Please introduce yourself and welcome to the council.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Aaron Hammerman. I'm the director of bands at North High School. In the past, I've put in an application for some of these funds for the North High band students to take part in trips all across the country. And with these funds, what I've been able to do is kind of level the playing field and scholarship kids. So in years past, we've gone to Chicago and performed. We went to Denver and performed. We went to Memphis and Nashville and performed. This year, the application that I submitted was, again, to level the playing field and offer scholarships to kids for private music lessons. As a part of my job at North High School, I teach one-on-one lessons. Unfortunately, I'm not enough. I'd love to get to every single student as often as I can. Sometimes it only turns into once every 10 or 11 weeks, unfortunately. So my application towards the fund was to hire more teachers to come in during the day, pull the students out of my class, they wouldn't be missing any other academic time, for directed 15 to 20-minute lessons that families might not otherwise be able to have access to. I can tell you out of the 70-plus kids in my program, 3, to my knowledge, take private lessons right now. And as a whole, private lessons can do a lot of things. Many of you have seen the North High Band in action, whether it's we helped open up the Bachman's Flower Shop a couple years ago, the Dunkin' Donuts, that was a fun one. over the summer, the United Marching Band of all the 622 schools, we march right on White Bear Avenue, we march North St. Paul, we march all over the metro area. And the hope is through with these private lessons, we can do more performances and really make an ensemble that the community is proud of. And with that, I welcome any questions or comments you might have, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councilmember Juniman has a question.
I appreciate that you're aiming this particular application request because I have a couple of friends who have taught band over time, and I know the value of private lessons, and I also know the increasing number of students who can't afford to have them any other way. Must be very difficult to be the music person and know that.
Thank you very much. We do our best.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Anything? Is there one more? Do you want to come up and join us, please? Please introduce yourself and welcome to the council.
Absolutely. Mayor Abrams, council members, Ms. Coleman and staff, thank you for having me tonight. I'm Josh Reimnitz. I'm with Breakthrough Twin Cities, one of the applicants for the charitable gift funds. And we are a long-term program based just down the road here, and we help students as rising 7th graders all the way through high school graduation. All of our students are at risk through traditional systemic barriers of not graduating on time and not pursuing a college degree or all the things that come with that success. And so the funds that we're asking for this evening are for helping students in a summer program, a 5.5-week program that will mix academics. So we do 4 different core subjects, we do electives, and then we also have a lot of fun while we're there. And we also do year-round programming, so on Saturdays and after schools, one-on-one mentorship, as well as career exploration and all that for a full 6 years. And when students eventually get to their junior or senior years, they get one-on-one college counseling to help pair them with the university or college that they're looking at. Or if college isn't for them at that point, we'll help them find exactly what they want to pursue at that point in time. So would welcome questions or comments at this time, but thank you for hearing me and thank you for being willing to allocate these funds to wonderful community organizations.
Thank you for your application. Councilmember Juniman has a question.
Thank you. How did you get started? How did this organization come to be?
Yeah, so we've been around since the late 70s, starting in the Bay Area, but locally we were founded in 2005 from a like organization in Minneapolis, and we've been around since that point in time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it. Council members, we have our work cut out for us. I always struggle with this because
it's hard.
It is hard. It is very challenging. There are more requests than for the money that we have. And I have to say, for my time on the council, we've never had $50,000 to divide up. So it will be a challenge. But council members, I think City Manager Coleman indicated these should be into Lois by Tuesday, October 18th, by the middle of the day. Let's make it by noon because it will go out then. The decision will be made, it'll be all collated, and it'll be announced at our next council meeting. So thank you very much for that. We have one more agenda item tonight, the ordinance amendment to the North End zoning zoning district. And let's see, this is going to be Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Planning Commission has been spending much of this year looking at the zoning code, specifically at permitted and conditional uses in each district and analyzing what uses need some updating and creating a use table. That work is going to come to the City Council later at a meeting this year. But there was one issue that staff identified that needed immediate attention, and that's before you tonight. In just background, in November of last year, the city adopted the North End zoning district, working to implement the North End vision plan. Prior to that district, the areas around the Maplewood Mall were zoned business commercial, which included a use called personal service. That use typically includes salons, barbershops, tattoo shops, permanent makeup, businesses, uses of that like. When the North End was adopted, that personal service use was inadvertently left out. So technically, all those uses in the mall area are legal nonconforming, and the city would not be able to permit new shops from opening. That was not the intent of the North End, to exclude those uses moving forward, hence the item before you tonight. So staff is proposing that code amendment to add personal and professional services to the list of permitted uses to the North End zoning district. Public hearing was held last month with the Planning Commission on this item. No speaker specifically attended and spoke on this issue, and the commission recommended approval of the adoption of the amendment. So staff is recommending 2 actions tonight for council. First, approving the ordinance amendment, and then a second motion approving a resolution authorizing publication of the ordinance by title and summary. That second motion needs to be a supermajority of the council. So with that, staff is available for any questions that the council may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Council members, do you have any questions? Kind of a housekeeping item. Okay, then there are 2 motions before us. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the ordinance amending the City Code, Chapter 44, zoning, Section 44708, Table 10, use standards in the North End zoning district within the city of Maplewood.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Villavicencio. The motion as written in our packet. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Now, in terms of publication of the new ordinance.
I further move to approve the resolution authorizing publication of this ordinance by title and summary.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave, the motion to approve the resolution authorizing publication of the ordinance by title and summary. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries as well. Council members, we have worked through our agenda for the evening, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming.